Hey guys, it's just me right now. I'm still waiting for the London is Blue guys to join, but I didn't want to keep you guys waiting. I know there's a couple of you waiting on here. So I just figured I'd get the stream started by myself and hopefully they can join soon. It's really, really early for them, like 8 a.m. on a Sunday. So hopefully they're not sleeping or anything. But I figured that I can just have like a Q&A session with you guys at the very least. And we can talk about Everton. And somebody just goes, Liverpool is losing. And I honestly haven't checked the score. So I'm just going to check it now. Wow, to Fulham. That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. But it's amazing for us, honestly. If Liverpool lose, just our chances of getting into the top four are even better. So that's really great if they can keep that loss, so to speak, going into our game tomorrow. It's going to be amazing. Hey guys. Hey. Hello. Thanks so much for joining. I know it's like super random. So if you guys have any questions, I have like some things prepared for when the guys join, if they end up joining. So hopefully they come soon. But if you have any questions that you want me to answer ahead of Everton, I'll be able to do that here as well. Any specific questions? Peter goes, to be fair, Fulham have been playing good football. Yeah, they have been. They've been playing pretty good. I hope that they don't get relegated, honestly. But like a team like Liverpool, let's be real, they should be beating Fulham. They really should. And what happened to them, right? They had this like massive winning streak at home at Anfield, and now they lost 5 in a row at Anfield. They have lost so many of their games. It's really, really nuts. So good for us at the very least. But yeah, about Everton, what questions do you guys have? What do you want to know? Going to be interesting. I think the main talking point is that I think Thiago Silva is in contention to play. I don't know if he's fit enough to start, but we could potentially see him incoming in the starting lineup. So let me know, who do you replace for Thiago Silva? Because I think we all can agree that Thiago Silva, if he's fit, he starts against any side, really, unless you have 2 games in a row, maybe, and you're resting him for 1 game. But who do you take out of that starting 11? Do you take out Christensen, which is a like for like swap, or do you move him? Do you like take out Aspilicueta and move Christensen to right center back? Like I have my thoughts on it, but I want to know what you guys think too. Dyke says to save Thiago for Atletico, and that could be a good shout as well. We don't want him to get injured again. So that's a good shout. And I think that Christensen really has been doing a job, honestly. So let's see. I can never predict the lineup. I always try to predict it, and I usually, under Lampard, I was really good at predicting the lineups, and now I'm just like, I really have no idea what's going on. Richie says, take Rudiger out for Silva. Yeah, it could be interesting. I don't know how Christensen is going to play in that left center back role, and perhaps it could be good. I don't know, but I think that it's safer to do a like swap. But he has been playing really well, but I just don't want him to get exposed, especially if somebody like Alonso is playing. You need more defensive coverage. I think that he really fits that middle center back in that back 3. Steven says Christensen is too good to be dropped at the moment. It's really interesting because when Christensen came in, I was not expecting that at all. I was never expecting Christensen to be like this like incredible player that he's become. I thought that I was like, I hope that he can do a job for us. But I wasn't expecting that much. I was just expecting him to cover Thiago Silva, and maybe we weren't as sturdy defensively, but I've been completely wrong. I think he looks really, really good. I don't think like in the back 4, it necessarily suited him as much, but this back 3, he's looking very, very good. And rumor has it, per the Telegraph article, Matt Law this morning, that he has a new, I think, 4-year contract, like lined up. So we could be seeing much more of Christensen. It's interesting because I thought that Zuma was going to be the one to get the contract, and now it seems to have swapped, and Zuma's probably going to leave if Christensen gets this new contract, I would imagine. So Peter goes, I'm just happy we're not conceding goals left, right, and center. The organization has been fantastic. I have to agree. Like, it's really interesting. I brought this up, I think, when Alex was on the podcast, or not, I don't have a podcast, I have a YouTube channel, but that at the beginning of the season, we were just trying to outscore all of our opponents. And now the goals have dried up a little bit, but our defensive structure is so much better. Something that I thought could be interesting that maybe you guys can float around is what you think of trying to get another attacking player on the pitch by maybe playing Mount further back with somebody like a Kovacic or a Conte. So you would have a pivot of Conte and Mount or Kovacic and Mount or whatever. And then you can get somebody like a Kai Havertz or Hakim Ziyech, as well as another player to play up, because we've seen that Ziyech has been playing. But I think it could be something that could be interesting to see, of course. And this way we get another attacking player, because I feel like with the back three, the only thing that I don't really like about it is that you sacrifice basically an attacking player for a defensive player. And sometimes, you know, the three center backs are much sturdier, but I don't think that sometimes you necessarily need it. So it could be interesting to try to get another attacking player out on the pitch. I know the wing backs have generally been more attacking minded, but still we haven't been scoring that many goals, and that could be a way for us to score more goals. Could be interesting. Dice going, we may see why can't I pronounce this? Jovacic or Cantinho, which is very funny. Casey goes, in 3 center back formation, we need to rotate. Probably better to swap the younger center backs than Aspie. Yeah, could be. I don't know what we're going to see. I really don't know where these guys are. Well, guys, I think you might just have me. I hope it's not too much of a disappointment, but feel free to use this as a Q&A, because I can also post a video with my thoughts as well, and a preview. So if you guys have like literally whatever questions, we can just have like a fun Q&A session, and I'll change the thumbnail or whatever if they don't join. But yeah, you're stuck with me. Sorry, I hope I didn't totally butcher your name, says, do we need to drop Mount in upcoming matches to practice for Atletico? I don't think so. No. Why would you drop your best player? Really, I think that Mount has been our best player, our player of the season. Him alongside Thiago Silva, but Silva honestly hasn't been playing. So if it keeps up like this, I think Mount player of the season for me. So I wouldn't drop him to practice for Atletico. I think that you have to go into each game with the view to win it, and Mount is he's a key asset for Chelsea right now, and it's a massive blow that he's not going to be there for Atletico. I'm really upset about it, honestly, because I don't think that he even deserved that yellow card. It is so questionable. But he scored 3 goals in the past 5 games. He's been one of Chelsea's only goal scorers in the past couple of games, where Chelsea really have been lacking goals and haven't had that final touch, or the what's it called? The clinical, or they haven't been clinical enough in front of goal. Mount brings that. He brings a press, and Chelsea need to win games now more than ever, because the race for the top 4 is so tight. Right now we're in 4th, just 1 point ahead of Everton, but they have a game in hand. So the game tomorrow is really important, but every game is really important. So personally, I wouldn't drop Mount. He'll get a rest against Atletico, and I think that Thomas Tuchel will have to have a game plan in place. The team will be preparing for the game against Atletico, knowing that Mount can't play. And I really hope that we don't lose the game just because of that, because I would be so upset. And also my niece and nephew would banter me for life if Atletico win, honestly. So I hope not. I'm just reading through your comments. So he goes, Elizabeth, now almost all bloggers in the UK stream. Yeah, sorry, I just picked a time that worked for the guys, because it was their morning and it worked. So I don't really mind it. The people who want to watch it will have it, and if not, they can watch it afterwards. It's no big deal. Andrew asked, should we have Callum or Reece at right wing back for this game? It's a really interesting point because Reece played in the last game against Liverpool. I thought he looked pretty good. I think he was the one that put in like a really interesting ball. I have a really bad memory for this stuff, you guys. So if it was a different game, please correct me. But I think like Everton are also a very attacking minded team, I think, and they have really good threats. Richarlison has been on fire. He scored in all of their last 4 games. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, his goals have dried up recently, but he still has like 13 goals or something like that in the league so far this season. So this team is not to be messed with. They beat us 1-0 in December. I remember being so livid about that game. So I do think that perhaps we could see Reece again to have more of a defensive-minded player at that right wing back spot, and Reece does bring an attacking option as well. But it really just depends like how comfortable you feel, I think, and perhaps it could depend on the pivot partnership that we see as well. But Callum isn't as defensively minded, and against those sorts of players, they mainly attack down the left-hand side as well. Richarlison plays on that side. So I do think that we could probably see Reece in there just because he's more defensively minded, and it'll help him to manage Richarlison. James goes, thoughts on Liverpool fumbling the game against Fulham right now? Honestly, I love it. I honestly don't like Liverpool, but it's just insane. It's honestly insane to see how far they've fallen, and I don't know why. I think like they've had a lot of injuries. They've been really unlucky with Van Dijk as well, and I think like bringing Thiago into the team, maybe it slowed them down a little bit. Like it's always difficult to manage when you bring new players in because you're switching up the dynamic of the team even so slightly. So it's a really interesting one. But honestly, if they lose, it's better for us because they're one of our competitors for the top 4. And if they lose, then they fall further off making the top 4. They fall further into that hole of just losing games. Really interesting. Guys, I want to get your opinion. I know this isn't an FPL stream, but let me know if you think that I should transfer out Salah, because if Liverpool aren't winning games and he's 12.5, perhaps we should just transfer him out. If we all transfer him out in solidarity, then nobody really gets hurt if he does score. So let me know, because it's honestly annoying me so much how much he costs and he doesn't get any attacking returns. This is an interesting question from Steven. He says, do you think that Mason Mount is better as a number 8 or number 10? I think that he's really showing how versatile he is. If you asked me at the beginning of this season, I would have said number 8, 100%. But now in this new role, in this new system under Tuchel, we're seeing him push further up the pitch, and he's showing that he can add these goal contributions to his game as well. And I think that where he's playing, he still is a link between the midfield and the attack. He's still winning the ball back in dangerous areas, and he's showing what an attacking threat he is. I think when he plays a little bit further back, he doesn't necessarily get as close to goal, and he mentioned this, and he has a good finish in him. We've seen that many times, especially against Liverpool. That was insane. So I do like seeing him a bit further up the pitch because I think that he can contribute more to goals than he should be doing. So he's only 22. He's only going to get better. But yeah, wherever he plays, he's really good. Booster goes, Aspie's needed to captain the team and make some forward runs. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Azpilicueta is going to get dropped, at least not for the Everton game, but I really don't think in this back 3 system he's going to get dropped this season. And he's a massive reason. Like the presence that he just brings as a captain is so important, especially when Thiago Silva isn't playing. I honestly love him. You guys already know this. Let's see. Casey goes, London needs Fulham in the Prem. The other local team I actually like. I root for them, like not as I root for Chelsea, but just like I don't want them to get relegated, especially because Ruben Loftus-Cheek is there, and I just want him to do well as well. Dave asks, what's your prediction of this game? I honestly haven't thought about it. Let's see. Chelsea have only scored, I think it was 8 goals in 7 Premier League games, or 11 goals in 10 games in all competitions, something like this. So Chelsea have been averaging about a goal per game, and they also haven't been allowing many shots. They've been allowing like 1.85 shots on target per game. So that doesn't even mean like shots conceded, just shots on target. And I think they've only conceded 2 goals in all of the games that Tuchel's been in charge. Everton are playing well. They won their last 3 games. I'm going to go for 1-0 to Chelsea because I don't know, or maybe a 2-1. I think that Chelsea will probably get the win, but Everton are just so good. But Chelsea's defense has been better. I'm going to go 1-0 to Chelsea. I'm going to be positive and say that we keep Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin at bay, and we get that clean sheet as well. Newsflash goes transfer Salah out with a ton of exclamation points. Yeah, the only reason I'm nervous about this, and Olivia and I talked about this on our weekly FPL show, is that like I think he has like 40 or 50% ownership. So basically, if he does well, even for just 1 week, you could be 10 or 20 points behind. So that's what I'm really nervous about, you guys, because if he does score and I don't have him in my team, then I don't know. I just don't know. And but it's like so much money. I feel like I could get in other players that are actually scoring, and it could just be the way to go. But I just find it such a hard risk, honestly. Yeah, Strip Bear says, remember to ask questions. Don't be shy. Please do ask questions, because I'm just chatting here to myself. So I hope that you guys like the Q&A. You can ask me about anything. Doesn't have to be football related at this point. It could just be about anything. I don't mind. I'm an open book. Neil asks, do you think Tammy Abraham should be sold in the summer to pave the way for Haaland? I don't think that selling Tammy, like, I don't think that you need to sell Tammy to pave the way for Haaland. I think like Haaland can join regardless of that. But I do think if Haaland joins, Tammy will probably leave, because then you're going to have, especially in this system, you have kind of like 2 forwards up front. And we've seen that Tammy isn't necessarily the choice for Tuchel. He's been subbed off at halftime, I think, twice already. 2 weeks he hasn't made the matchday squad. Apparently one time he wasn't really fit, and now they're saying that it's his ankle. I don't really know. But I think that right now Tammy could be potentially the 3rd choice striker, because you have Timo, Giroud has been playing a handful of games, and then you have Tammy as well. And I think that, you know, in terms of their output, they've all been more or less equal. I really like Tammy Abraham as a player, but obviously if you get that choice to bring in Haaland, you got to bring him in. He's world class. He's one of a kind. He's going to be probably the best player in the world alongside Mbappe. It's going to be like the new best players. So if you can bring Haaland in, then you got to do it at whatever cost, I think. And his initials, you guys know this, his initials are EH. He would kind of be filling a void that EH and then Hazard left. And my initials are also EH. So it just means that he's an awesome person. Connor asked, what do you think of Werner's disallowed goal, given it was his arm that was offside? I ranted about this in my post-match review. I thought that it was really ridiculous, to be honest, especially because he was like 40 meters or yards or whatever you guys say, like 40 meters from the goal. It was a fantastic run. And I think that you're always going to be like using your body a little bit. If you have to start with your arms behind where the defender is, then you have to start maybe even like a meter behind where you would have started. And you can't score with your hand. You just can't. So apparently they were saying like it was the part of the shoulder and that part from the sleeve or something you are allowed to score with or something like that. And that's why it was disallowed. I think that it's really silly. I think that the rule needs to be looked at, because like, what advantage are you really getting from that? You're not getting an advantage. The rule of offside was created so that attackers couldn't have a massive advantage over defenders and be in front of them when the ball is being played. But that really wasn't the case. And I think it's just taking the joy out of football. Why are you drawing these lines to see where his like shoulder or arm was? It makes no sense. I think you should draw it maybe from the knee or from the foot, honestly, because that's where you can score from. So I don't think that he gained any advantage from it, and I just think that it's ruining it. It really is, because I honestly thought that was a goal, and I celebrated it, and then it goes to VAR, and it just feels absolutely terrible. So I'm just reading. Pride of London says stats tell that Chelsea and Everton have played 36 matches within themselves with an average of 2.7 goals per match. If we check the previous 3 matches, Everton win all 3 in a row. Yeah, it doesn't look great. Like out of the last 6 games, Chelsea won 1. There are 2 draws, and Everton won 3 times, including that 1-0 win back in December. So the head-to-head recently, Everton have been a really, really difficult opponent. But I also think that Chelsea have been undefeated at Stamford Bridge against Everton in 26 games, I think. So whether that's a draw, it might not be a win, but Everton are a really good team, especially under Ancelotti. They're doing very, very well, so they're not going to be an easy opponent. James says best places to visit in Spain, and I like this question because you guys know I live in Madrid. So if you guys are ever here, obviously you have to see Madrid. My favorite places that I've been, we went to the north to Pontevedra, and you can, or Galicia, we went to so many. I think it was in Galicia. We took like a boat and we went to Las Islas Cíes, and they're voted the best island in the entire world, like the best beach in the entire world. So definitely that's like number 1 on the list. If you haven't been to Mallorca, that's also beautiful. I loved Mallorca as well. I loved Alicante. We went to Javia, that's in Alicante, and that was really fun. So those are probably like my top 3 places that I've been in Spain. Newsflash goes, is Mount a good replacement for Salah? I know he's talking about FPL, and honestly, I was considering doing this move. I'm going to wait, I think, until after Game Week 29 when both teams don't play to make this. But I was honestly considering it because Mount has scored 3 goals in his past 5 games, and he's really cheap. I was also considering like doing Salah for Kevin De Bruyne, so it's still like a high cost player that should get a lot of attacking returns, but Mason Mount has been doing pretty well in fantasy, so I'm honestly considering it. Let me know if I'm crazy. CZ09 goes, what are the odds for Tuchel winning the Champions League this season? I don't think that Chelsea are going to win the Champions League. It's going to be massive accomplishment if Chelsea can get out of this round of 16 stage, because we haven't done that since like 2014, and it's against Atletico Madrid. So I do think that would be a massive accomplishment in and of itself, but this team is still lacking that killer instinct, and I think that you need that killer instinct in order to win trophies, especially to win Champions League. And right now, I just don't feel like we have a game changer like an Hazard or an Mbappe or whoever you want, or Salah, whoever you want. I don't think that we have that game changer in our team that can just flip a game on its head and create magic out of anywhere. I was hoping that as Pulisic. He hasn't been looking his best recently. So I don't know. I think next year we could, imagine if we sign Haaland, like then we would 1,000% be contenders. But I think even just having a preseason, Tuchel is able to understand the talent that he has and find the best positions for them. We haven't even seen Kai Havertz and Christian Pulisic really under Thomas Tuchel yet. We really haven't. They've had Havertz has barely had any minutes. I think Christian Pulisic has had very, very minor minutes as well. So we still have like those attacking talents yet to be unlocked under Tuchel, and I think that they could do really, really good. Karen goes, if Tammy goes and Giroud only stays 1 more season, who would you want to bring in as a backup striker? I mean, I think if we get Haaland, but then you have your strikers. You have Haaland, you have Timo Werner, and you have Giroud. You also have Kai Havertz, who can play as the 9. You have Christian Pulisic, who can also play up there. We've been seeing Mason Mount. If you look at the heat charts, Mason Mount has also been playing really high. He's been playing like a second striker as well. So if Giroud stays, then you don't need a replacement, really. If he doesn't stay, then I would probably try to promote somebody like Broja. I don't think you necessarily need to buy anybody as a backup striker. I'm just reading all of your comments. I lost my place. Sorry, guys. Dave says transfer news about Haaland is 100% confirmed or not. I don't have any sources, guys. I'm sorry. I wish that I did, honestly. I just read whatever you guys read as well. I know that the sources that the articles are using are legit, that Chelsea definitely do have interest in Haaland, that if Roman wants him, he says that he's going to get him, but that's as much as I know. Haaland is really going to have his pick, but Chelsea, I think, are trying to get him this season because next season his release clause, it's like 100 million or something like that, it will kick in, and then you'll have a lot of teams trying to get him. So I think that they're trying to go for him when a lot of other teams aren't going to be able to afford him, because the transfer fee is probably going to be around 150 million-ish, plus agent fees, and the contract and everything is probably going to be upwards of like 200 million, and Chelsea are one of the only clubs that would be able to afford that. Peter goes, and this is a really good question. Ellie, going forward, once Timo, Kai, Pulisic, and Ziyech all get back to best, how do you think they'll fit in our current formation? In the current formation, you just don't have room for all of these attackers, and that's what I don't like about the formation. The formation is winning games, and it works, right? But like you can't fit everybody in. You can fit Timo, you can fit maybe 2 or 3, like out of the 4 of them, because you probably have Timo playing up front with somebody next to him and somebody behind him. And that somebody behind him is probably Mason Mount. So then you have 4 people for 2 spots, really. So I do think that probably next season we're going to see a change in formation to be able to fit all of these players in. I think that the formation choice this season was really made because we were conceding so many goals. And so Tuchel said, all right, I'm just going to sturdy up the back, because it's easier to teach players how to defend than it is to teach them how to score goals. So I'm going to sturdy up this defense and play 3 center backs at the back. It also gives you an extra passing outlet so that you don't lose the ball in your third of the pitch. And then over the summer, he'll figure out where to fit these players in. But I do think that at least 3 of them will have to fit into the team at the same time, I think. Including Mason as well, because you spent all of this money, especially on Kai Havertz. You're not going to spend 70+ million on this player to have him sitting on the bench. Kai Havertz is going to play, absolutely. The one I'm most nervous about is Hakim Ziyech, because he is a little bit older, and I don't think that he's necessarily going to be given the time that Timo Werner or Kai Havertz is going to be getting, because they're younger players. They're adjusting to a new country and everything. And although he is adjusting as well, I think that since he's in his prime, a little bit more is expected of him. And he didn't cost as much as they did as well, so it's not as big of an issue if he doesn't play, because you could probably sell him pretty easily as well. Sorry, guys, I just need water, and I forgot to bring my water bottle again. Sean goes, thoughts on contract extension for Rudiger? Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I think he's been playing pretty well, but I'm also not 100% sold, because I know that he can have his moments as well. So I want to see more of him before I make any judgments on it, because I want to see if it's a long-term thing that he can be playing consistently this well. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say about it. Yeah, Barcelona is amazing. I only been once, and it was like probably 10 years ago or something like that. I haven't been since I live in Madrid, which is funny. Casey asked, what are your top 5 songs? I don't know. I've been listening to a lot of like musical theater recently. Like I love Broadway shows, and I used to, since I grew up in New York, I used to be able to go all the time, and I haven't seen a show in like 3 or 4 years, and obviously it's closed down now. But I've been listening to like a lot of Broadway for some reason, like Hamilton, rap. I don't know. That's just it always changes. Connor says, given you live in Madrid and you say your niece and nephew would banter you over Atletico, who are you rooting for in the Madrid derby? Well, my husband supports Real Madrid. He doesn't really follow at all, but if he like had to pick a team, it would be Real Madrid. And so I kind of just like support them because that's who he said. So if I had to pick a team between Real and Atletico, then I would pick Real. And Eden Hazard's there, so I tried to root for him as well. Richie says, if we beat Everton on Monday, do you think we can get for second place? I'm just going to check. Oh my God, Liverpool are still losing, you guys. That's absolutely insane. So I'm just going to check. Chelsea are on 47. If we win, then we go to 50. So right now it's impossible for us to get second, but we can jump up there as well. Lose FPL says, how's your FPL doing this season? It's doing pretty good. I'm in like the top 800,000, which isn't bad considering that I literally didn't know how to play at the start of the season. So that's fun. I'm trying to think. Like right now, I'm kind of upset with my team because I'm trying to prep for that game week 29, and there aren't like that many players that I want, but I'm also trying to get points from that. So it's just like it's doing okay, but I feel like it could do better. Like all of the big players aren't performing. So you have Salah isn't performing, Fernandez isn't performing. I had Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he wasn't performing. Harry Kane wasn't performing for a while, so it's just been like a really weird season. So I want to add Nick. Nick's joined me from London is Blue. Hey Nick, how's it going?
Hi, I'm so sorry about the time mix-up. You were +7 from us, not +6, so we totally screwed that up, and I apologize.
No way at all. I thought that you guys are in the East Coast, so that would be +6, but my fault as well.
No, you're good.
Do you think the others will join, or they might even still be sleeping? Because I know it's super early for you guys.
Yeah, Dan got up early, just not early enough. So he's on his way right now. He should be joining pretty quick.
Okay, cool. Okay, I was just chatting with everybody for half an hour and just doing like a random Q&A.
I feel so bad. I apologize to everyone.
No, don't worry about it. We're happy to have you on now. While we're waiting, I'm just going to grab my laptop, honestly, and wait and get some water because my throat is dying.
Yep.
So, hold on.
Broadcaster problem right there.
I know. I always should bring it, and I just forget. I always forget to have it, but everybody knows here. Oh, I almost dropped my laptop. Everybody knows that I'm super casual on my channel as well. So. No problem. I'm going to tweet the link then that you guys are coming, that you've joined. So,
you gotta get the LE coffee mug and make this thing official.
I know. Oh shoot! I almost tweet the StreamYard link for everybody to join. That's fine. I'll just leave it, I think. Hey Dan.
Hey, how's it going?
So sorry about the mix-up. I thought you guys were 6 hours behind me.
Well, I mean, this is the benefit of time zones. We all get to learn something today, which is the best part of the way to start a Sunday.
I know it's super early for you guys as well. So, so he goes to Pride London. I'm really glad that you guys could join. I've been listening to your podcast for like years, it feels. So it's like really crazy to like put a face to the voice as well, and that you guys would join my channel because I've known you forever. So thank you so much. How are you guys doing?
Well, thank you for having us. We wish that we would have been on time, but yeah, we're good. We're good. There's so much to talk about these days with Chelsea that, you know, it's like we'll end up doing 3 shows in a week and it doesn't feel like enough, you know, like there's too much going on, but it's good. It's a good time to be a content creator. It's a good time to talk about Chelsea, and if we're beating Liverpool, I'll take it.
I know, and now Liverpool are losing against Fulham as well, which is absolutely insane. It's been a big topic of discussion. Dan, how are you doing?
Doing great. You know, I think to Nick's point, you know, there used to be a period of time where we could get away with a single podcast episode per week, and that is not Chelsea in 2022, 2021. So it's been quite the season. I've got moving boxes behind me. I've been moving this, and it's, you know, very similar to how Chelsea are moving right now. They're moving up the table.
Oh, damn.
I'm moving.
Oh,
maybe Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it's fate.
No.
I don't know, but I'm happy to find out.
Oh yeah, that's such a good analogy. I mean, you guys just bring something different that I couldn't bring to this channel, so I really appreciate that. So I want to ask you guys, how are you feeling about Tuchel? Because we haven't chatted about that. I think that for me personally, I've been really impressed, really surprised with how well that he's been doing. So what are your thoughts on him so far this season?
I'm still jury out, I think. And not because the success hasn't been there or whatever. We clearly have improved the run of fixtures from where we were when he came here to where we are now. Like, that is a fact. We've been talking on our show about the balance of the team. And while clearly the defense is markedly improved, there's, again, no denying that. At times, I think it comes at the sacrifice of real offensive flow. And I'm of the opinion, and I think the stats will back this up, that you have to score goals to win games. And, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see how he manages that going forward. I mean, it's felt like we've needed a moment of magic in the last couple of matches to break through. Obviously you have the Drew overhead kick and Mason Mount's incredible finish. Like those, it shouldn't be that hard to score. So that's just how I feel about it. But I mean, what he's done with the defense has been incredible. I mean, really incredible, using kind of players that were not in favor at all and putting together probably the best our defense has looked since Antonio Conte was here in that first season. So that's really impressive.
Yeah, that's something that I was talking about earlier before you guys joined, is that I'm weary about this formation because you basically sacrifice an attacking player for that extra center back. And something that I think personally is that perhaps we could be playing this just to shore up the defense in the short term, and then hopefully in the preseason when he gets a chance to really have time and implement his philosophy on this team. And it's not just about like these quick results, because it was just like absolutely crucial that Chelsea tried to secure top four this season. I think that we would maybe see a change in formation and maybe see like more attackers in there. And something else is like you have Kai Havertz, who you bought for over 70 million. So you have to find a way to try to incorporate him into the team and give him some opportunities, because he's somebody that really hasn't been playing. So Dan, I want to ask you an idea that I kind of floated about was that perhaps we could see Mason Mount drop a little bit deeper, because I do think Mason Mount has to play. And perhaps we could see him like in a pivot with Conte or Kovacic or somebody, and then you can try to get another attacking minded player on the pitch. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, because I was looking back and, we've got a little chain with Joe Tweeds, and we've been talking a lot of nerdy numbers, and Mason Mount's, goal that he created had a 0.1 XG on it in the last match. And so we're not going to win many matches on a tenth of an XG opportunities moving forward. I mean, you look at the fact that, we've only had 2 matches with an expected goal of over 2 since Tuchel's come to the team. Thankfully, we've also suppressed the chances from other teams, so we can get away with the 1-0 victories at the moment. I think another way that I've looked at it beyond just maybe the pivot is, Kai Havertz obviously has played in a more central kind of striker position when he was at Leverkusen. Does he potentially push up further forward? Timo maybe plays a little offset of him. You still maybe get that attacking 3, whether it's Callum or Ziyech out on the side. And then Mason kind of drops even a little bit more deeper into midfield and can be that connective tissue between the defense and the attacking players as well. And so I do think, there is a benefit that Tuchel has in terms of having so many players that are malleable and can be played in different positions. But I also think that's it's a double-edged sword because it means that he doesn't always get to play them in their best spot.
It is interesting, though, right? Because right now, I mean, the formation's staying, right? We're playing the 3-back basically at the end of the year. Like, that's played it in like 10 of 11 matches. So I think we need more attacking thrust from the wings than we've had over the last handful of matches. If you're gonna deploy that width moving forward, I think you have to be creating more from those areas, which I think is why Callum was originally kind of put out there as more of a creator than a defender. But it hasn't exactly worked out. But one of the things we did note, Ellie, is that the way that we played against Liverpool, where they were ball dominant and we had like 45% possession or whatever it was, it looked so much better. It looked like we had more space to run into. It looked like the counterattacks were sharper. I don't think we need to have the ball to play good football. And I think that kind of goes counter to what we had, like 78% possession against Wolves or something like that. Like, we don't need that. I think this team needs to find a better balance.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. And I think it's something that we've just seen for so long with this Chelsea team, that sometimes they just don't really know what pass to make. I think sometimes they can be a little bit risk averse as well, especially in the final third. So instead of moving the ball forward, sometimes they'll just play the easy pass, play the back pass right back to the defense. And yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think that sometimes they just fall right back into that. And as much as you try to coach them, it's going to take time to change that, because that's been something that we saw under Lampard, we saw under Sarri as well, that it's just been years and years of the team playing like this, and it's going to take time to change them to try to be a little bit riskier. And I think that you need to have that reinforcement, right? To say, like, it's okay if you lose the ball, we're going to counter press, we're going to win it back, but I prefer for you to try to do something, because maybe it can come off. Maybe if you take a shot, it will get rebounded. Maybe that something can happen from it, but you have to be taking those shots. And we've seen that Mason really has been one of the only players who's trying to take shots from outside the box, and he's been scoring goals. So look at that, you know? So I totally agree with you guys there, and it's been something that I've been saying for a while, that we were scoring a lot of goals from penalties, and then we weren't scoring goals from open play, and that's something that I've been nervous about, that Chelsea really need to start scoring goals as well. So I'm going to get to some questions, guys. If you have any questions for the London's Blue guys, they are some of the best people that you could possibly ask. So definitely get any questions that you have in. Jonathan says, I'm terrified of James Rodriguez. What Everton players do you consider a threat? And Dan, I'll start with you.
I mean, it probably has to be Richarlison, just for the form he's in. You know, I mean, I've made the mistake of trying to outsmart my FPL team and triple captain DCL on a double, and that did not work out effectively this last game week. My
triple captain bombed. I triple captain Gundogan, and he didn't even play. I was like...
Yeah, the Gundo gang definitely got poor returns on their investment. Same for those who invested in DCL. But yeah, I think Richarlison is the one who's been scoring a little bit more frequency, more regularity. He's the one that at least in form, I'd be more afraid of. But I think Nick, you know, James has definitely returned to a little bit of what we saw the first couple weeks in the season, which, you know, I think had most of us scared.
I agree. I'm going to go in a weird direction with this, as I typically do. So I think you can mark James out of a game. I do. He's not athletic enough to beat people one-on-one anymore. So I think there is a strategy you could deploy where you put someone athletic enough, like a Kovacic, or you know, you throw one of your wing backs at him and just see how he goes. Right. Richarlison scares me a little bit more. But I would say that when we played them in early December at Goodison, Sigurdsson really had a good game. And not just because he scored the penalty or whatever, but like I think he just ran the show in midfield, was receiving the ball in dangerous areas between the lines, and I think was able to feed the ball out. And again, that was are we allowed to swear on this channel? I don't want to.
I guess so. It's YouTube, right? Like, I don't know. I guess
it was. I will not sully this wonderful show like I do my own. It was kind of a scrappy game. It wasn't a beautiful game. I'll put it that way. But it was interesting to see him kind of in those advanced areas, because I think most people kind of left him for dead career wise. I mean, he hasn't been really performing that well over the last couple of years, but he did find some dangerous pockets against us. Now, I think this formation that we're playing will not allow for a whole lot of advanced play from Everton. I think we're probably going to be more ball dominant, but Sigurdsson does kind of scare me.
Yeah, and I think that they're probably going to play more attacking minded than the teams that we had been facing, where we were just playing against 10 men behind, sitting, parking the bus, so to speak. So, but I do think that creates more opportunities for Chelsea as well to hopefully Werner can use his speed to take advantage of that. And I think that he's been somebody who's looked pretty good recently. He hasn't looked the best. He hasn't been back to Timo Werner as we would like to know him, but I do think that he's starting to build his confidence up a little bit more. Being Timo Werner, you get the ball in the back of the net versus Liverpool, but it's disallowed. How are you feeling? You think that gives him any confidence at all?
I would hope so. I mean, I think he was unfairly judged by the reflection in the lens of the camera that took the shot. I don't know. There's going to be conspiracy theorists that are going to take like years off their lives trying to investigate how it was actually ruled offside.
I read so hard about this. It was ridiculous.
It's just stupid.
I have a
solution.
solution.
It was a stupid moment. What's
that?
Tie goes to the runner?
No. Well, yes. Frankly, yes. But the other thing is, if I were a Premier League striker right now, and I know the shirt line is kind of what they're, I'm showing my sleeve here. They're kind of showing the shirt line in the arm for the line on replay. I would be wearing the shortest sleeves possible, like up to my shoulders. That way, there's no mistaking where the arm starts. Plus, no long sleeves, because the long sleeves can blend into the shirt, right? So no, you can't wear long sleeves anymore. You have to wear really short sleeves. And that way it's like, no, clearly this is where my arm starts. I can't score with this. So
I just don't get it. I don't get why they specify. I don't really understand the rule from, it's this from this part of your arm or whatever. And since he could technically score from that part, that's why it was offside. I didn't get it.
Also, if you're a runner, you're naturally moving.
Exactly.
Right? No one just stands like this and then just waddles their way down the field. Like, that's not how running works. You're always in motion, and a guy like Timo is always in motion. So, like, again, the whole rule doesn't make sense. Wenger's solution doesn't make sense either. If you've read that whole deal that he's proposing, it's basically you could have any part of your body offside except a foot, essentially, so you can play the ball. It doesn't work either. It's common sense needs to prevail. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying, that you really, it's not giving you any advantage to have a millimeter of your arm or armpit hair offside. It just isn't. So he made a 40-meter run or whatever it was, and he gets marked offside. It's not giving him any advantage at all. But we digress then. I'm sorry, you're saying.
I do this to Dan all the time, so this is
that's
normal.
okay. But then I go on a soliloquy, and then 4 minutes later, he has to kind of jump in and stop me from talking, which is what happens.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think Timo has to be in positive spirits, especially after what Tuchel said at the end of the day, which is, that it's a privileged life that a footballer gets to lead. That ultimately you're in a position where you're not going to stress it. You're going to work hard on it. You're going to put yourself on the pitch to train and make it happen. And we're not going to look at the numbers and the stats. I mean, I think he's saying everything he needs to do to put Timo in the right headspace, because ultimately, if Timo starts firing between now and the end of the season, and if you look at his record in the Bundesliga, he is a streaky player. He will go on 4, 5, 6 game tears of goals and then go 5, 6, 7 games in the reverse where he doesn't score. But he also will help out in creating assists, which he's done this season. He definitely, I think, maybe different than like when we had Alvaro Morata top, draws the attention of defenders as well. Yeah. So he at least is keeping somebody occupied, and that has in some cases opened up a lane for Mason to run in, for Chilwell to get more involved, like he did in this last match as a left kind of wing back, which was really nice to see him get some game time too. But I do think his presence on the pitch has still been positive. I would just like it to end with goal contributions, more than just assists. The winning penalties is nice too, but he doesn't take them, so you can't really give him the benefit of that either.
No, it's a really good point, and it's something that I've been saying that at least he's getting into these good positions, because I would be more nervous if he didn't have that positioning and awareness, but he does have that. Sometimes I do feel like he could pick better passes or like get closer to the goal, because sometimes he does find himself out a little further to the left than I would like. But like you said, he's getting into those areas and he's assisting some goals, he's winning penalties, and I really rate that. And I think that it's just a matter of time. We can just see that he's not super confident in front of goal right now. And I think that we saw, was it like, I'm really bad at remembering this, but was it like a Reece James cross that he kind of fluffed and he just needed to bring the ball down? It was against Liverpool, I think, that he just needed to bring the ball down and he could have scored perfectly, but he kind of just took it first time and his leg was really high. And I think those are the kinds of things that if he was in a more confident headspace, he wouldn't think twice about it and would get that into the back of the net as well.
Yeah, I've noticed, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but his first touch is sometimes pretty awkward. And I don't know why that is. I mean, like, he clearly is a good footballer, so it seems weird that his first touch will, like, depending on the angle of the ball, will spray across the field, or he'll not necessarily control it the right way. But yeah, I would agree. I think there are a lot of players on our team that are not performing right now that are confidence players, and we found that out throughout the year. I think you could put Pulisic in that category, probably Havertz in that category. There are a fair amount of guys. I think Callum's a confidence player. And one of the things that we've been talking about on our show is there can only be the man on a team, right? Like and depending on who you think that is, that means that 10 other people need to work together to ensure that that whoever the man is needs to like kind of lead. And right now that's Mason, which I don't think you would have picked out of a lineup at the beginning of the year, but I mean he's player of the season right now. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And he's the one that consistently gives 7.5s and 8s out of 10. And there has not been another player at that level. There probably are more talented footballers on the team, but none of them are delivering at a consistent clip like he is. And so I think that angers part of Chelsea Twitter for whatever reason. I'll never figure that out, but I love him and I think he's great. And I would hope that, we had this little joke with Tweeds the other day about how Kai could play that role. I think Kai needs to make himself Mason Mount before Mason Mount makes himself Kai, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where my headspace is at.
I'm really glad that you said it, because I absolutely adore Mason Mount. I think he's an incredible player. And I think what a lot of people fail to understand is that he's just 22 and they're constantly comparing him to players and just upping the bar that they compare him to, because he's just that good. He's just 22. He's only going to get better. We're forgetting that he's still a youngster. Like, if he's this good at 22, just imagine what he can do in like 3 or 4 years' time. It's honestly incredible. So I love Mason Mount, my player of the season for sure. And I think like he's just so consistent, and he's one of those players that is always going to give 110%. It doesn't matter if you're losing 5-0, you're still going to see him running around the pitch and trying to win the ball back and trying to score. It is something that I really, really appreciate about him. Mm-hmm. So I want to try to get into like a starting 11, like potentially. Let's see if we can try to predict it. I never do it. I never get it. Like, I never do. Under Lampard, I was very good at predicting them. Under Tuchel, I haven't gotten any. But I do think it could be fun just to see if we can get it right. And then we can have bragging rights. I don't know. So I think we can all agree that Mendy will be in goal. But that right wing back spot is definitely really interesting, because I think Everton do attack more down the left with Richarlison. And perhaps we would want somebody who's more defensively minded in Reece James. But Callum has been playing more of that role. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, Aspi is the one who's played every single minute, I think, under Tuchel since he's arrived. So you would imagine your back three involves that right wing back being covered by Aspi. Yeah. The other thing is Everton are a little more porous than some of the sides that we have played against previously. I mean, they're giving up, over an expected goal of 1+ per game for the last 5 games. And they're only averaging above 1 for the majority too. And that's all Richarlison, right? It's Richarlison scoring and Sigurdsson penalties. So they also don't create a ton too. So I think maybe you could get away with Callum in this match, particularly if you're also thinking about just rotation, fitness, and trying to make sure people get the appropriate opportunities. And I also think Callum's defensive work rate is sometimes a little underrated. I think he's got booster jets as well and can recover quite quickly. And I think the other thing we're going to do is we're probably going to try to play possession ball. And Everton are a team that doesn't like possession. They average, when they're not playing against a City or some of the other sides, they're more of a 40% type of possession team on average. And so that's going to give us maybe an opportunity to hold a little bit more, to try to reload, and we might need the explosiveness of like the extra half attacker that Callum gives you versus what Reece does, which, he has found himself in good positions, but also maybe isn't just the direct threat on goal that Callum would be.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Nick, do you agree?
I think I'm playing Reece personally, and I think it has more to do with who my striker option is than it does anything else, which I will get to in a second. Hard tease for the striker spot.
Interesting. I honestly, I would be happy with either of them. Like, I don't really have any qualms at that right wing back spot, whoever plays. I think they both can do a job. I think going against Everton, I'm kind of more inclined to play somebody who's a little bit more defensively minded in Reece, but I do think that Callum can do a job there. So it's not a position that I really, really worry about. Another interesting thing that I want to ask you guys about is that Thiago Silva should be in contention for this game. Whether or not he's starting, we don't exactly know. But when he comes back, I think that we can all agree that he does play. He has to start. So who does he come in for in that center back 3?
I don't think he does right now.
What?
I got to be honest. We were talking about. I know we were talking about this post Liverpool. I don't believe in losing your place due to injury as a general principle in life, because I think it can happen to anyone at any given time, and like there has to be some sort of fairness there. But the back 3 is playing really well right now, and if you think about who he would come in for, right? He's not coming in for Rudiger. Tuchel loves him. I don't, your best guess as to why, but he's clearly there. Christensen just got done playing probably the best game of his career, right? And is in a confident vein of form and looks like he has control over that spot. And Azpi's your club captain. Now, Silva does have leadership ability, so like maybe he comes in for Azpi or spells him every once in a while, but I think Christensen would be the most natural position that he would swap in for. Is I think he's a good passer, just like Christensen can be. Probably it's a little bit of a more dynamic long ball, but it's crazy to say that out loud. It is. I don't know.
I know. I'm shocked, honestly. I can see your points. I understand it as well, because I would feel really bad dropping Christensen after the performances that he's been giving. But I'm just thinking, like, if you have Thiago Silva, you play him. I don't know. Dan, do you agree?
I think I also take into context the fact that we will play a Leeds team, which is going to run our team ragged, which is just what they do. They are runners on Saturday, right? So we have a Monday late match and a early Sunday or Saturday match. So there's not a lot of recovery time for these players. I think you would want to be 100% that the fitness of Thiago Silva is going to be ready for the last set of games that we have this season. That would also let you maybe let him play versus Leeds, gives you then some flexibility to determine who starts in the Champions League game. There's also an FA Cup match that comes right after that too. So there is a little bit of congestion for the fixtures coming up. I probably stay with the hot hand, but that's my preference more for, I think you build from your back. So if you have stability, if you're not letting in goals and you have a rhythm, you should try to keep it. only when it starts letting in goals or something breaks down should you really try to change that, because everything else builds from the back.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. I just feel like Thiago Silva has to fit in, but then I'm like, who does he fit in? Who does he go in for? It's such a conundrum. And I agree with James that it is ironic that our defense has really been our strong suit when at the beginning of the season, we were just trying to outscore the opponent in order to win games. So that's really funny. And Sebastian says, we can't rush Thiago back into starting lineup. No, I think this is only a hypothetical for when he's 100% fit to start. I don't want to risk his fitness and play him if he's not 100% fit. And there's also no need, because it's not like the defense is leaking goals or having any issues. Really, they're solid at the back. So no reason to rush him in unnecessarily. But it is good to have that extra coverage as well. Nick, you look like you want to say something.
I'm on the record as being not the biggest Christensen fan, but I think, again, like if you're gonna just call it fairly, he's playing the best football he's played in 3 years, right? In a formation that really suits him. I think it would be incredibly harsh right now to take away a starting spot from him on the way that he's playing. Now, if results don't go the right way, or we start leaking goals or whatever, then of course you have to reconsider that. But it would just be really, really harsh, because he is either a future center back of this team or a really valuable asset that you have in your lineup to maybe sell on. So there's a future consideration for him too, where he hasn't had a whole lot of minutes. We don't know if someone like Barcelona came calling what his price tag would even be, but if he starts playing, keeping clean sheets regularly, there is that possibility later on. So I think you have to keep all of that in context too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But I don't know if you guys saw the Telegraph article from Matt Law that apparently he might have a new 4-year contract in the works. So
the club would be smart to do that and raise his buyout along the way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Makes sense. We do have to think that it could be for that as well. So just chugging right along here, Sam asks, who do you think that Chilwell is the first choice left wing back? Now, he started the last 2 games. I didn't think he had the best of games, but I do like him as a player, and I think that he can improve in that. It's a new role for him as well. What do you guys think about Chilwell?
I would imagine that he would potentially, I don't know. I feel like if I could see him getting rested for this match, and then he plays versus Leeds. He's a little. Neither of them are fast. Neither of Alonso or Chilwell are the fastest players on the pitch. Maybe Chilwell is better in goal celebrations than Alonso. I think we can say that, like, his combinations with Mason for the Hadouken was great. So maybe we give him the edge there for style points. But I would say that Alonso, I feel like this is a match where Alonso's going to just oddly play, no rhyme or reason, and you see Chilwell come in for the Leeds match. I do think maybe Tuchel plays around with the wing backs. It seems like he's willing to experiment there, but I think the back 3 is where he is pretty firmly does not want to make changes. It's the only area of the pitch where he kind of like is sets and forgets, right? He puts in the oven on a long bake and just doesn't turn around for a couple hours.
Oh my God, Dan, your analogies are killing me today. I also feel the same way. I think Alonso plays. Those were close back-to-back matches. Basically had 3 days to prep for our last match, and then you're going to have the same amount for this. So I would rest Chilwell. I'd play Alonso, who should hypothetically have fresh legs, and save Chilwell's legs for a Leeds team that's going to come right at him.
Yeah, and I think as well, like that right now, I don't think that there's any of like either of them that I would really prefer, because like in the long run, I think that Chilwell is a better asset because Alonso is older, and I just think that you can make that Chilwell has a higher ceiling than Alonso does. I think Alonso can have a couple of good games, and then maybe, he'll score an amazing goal, but then he kind of trails off a little bit. So I've never been like super high on Alonso. But right now, I think that Tuchel is like adjusting. He hasn't really been playing well. I thought he's looked a little bit better. Like under those final games under Lampard, he was not playing well at all, but neither was anybody. So I really can't hold it against him. But it's an interesting shot. I do think that, like, if I see Alonso, I'm not going to be surprised at all. Who do you put in the middle of the pitch, the middle two, the pivot that I think we'll see? Will we see a Jovicic? I don't know why I struggle so hard to say that.
Yeah. I think you do. I think you do. I don't know who's going to play for Everton. I mean, they've kind of preferred this either 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 all season. So if you have someone like Alon playing, potentially you rethink your midfield because he's going to try and control the show. But I'm kind of the opinion, and I don't know if Dan agrees with this statement or not, but I'm kind of the opinion now that you do not want to injure N'Golo Kante again this season. He's playing at a very good level, and I love him a lot, and I want him to play really well throughout the end of the year. So I think there is going to be probably a rotation. So you have three guys that are really preferred right now between Jovicic and Conte. My guess is you start to see the rotation happening. You've seen that over the last three games, right? You three different combinations of midfield. So I would guess Jorginho and Kovacic.
Interesting. Yeah.
Conte, has a leg issue, right? It stems from just running a ridiculous amount, but you also have the fact that in the Europa League final, has not basically been available as regularly since that point, and has kind of transitioned into a different state in his career. So I do think you give him rotation where you can. I also think the other thing to keep in mind is every one of these matches is a final at this point. And our run into the end of the season is an absolute murderer's row in fixtures. We have Leicester, we have City, we have, I don't know, a mid-table team in Liverpool. But like...
they are mid-table, though, just to be fair.
I would take another 3 points against them. But ultimately, like there are very difficult fixtures for us at the end of the season, and any opportunity, if you think that Everton are an easier side to get a result against versus any of those other sides, then do you play your strongest side and hope that you can get to a point of safety by the end of the season, or maybe with 3 or 4 games left, so you're not sweating bullets like we all were at the end of the Liverpool match. So I imagine you don't see Conte play, but I also wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if Tuchel started him.
Yeah, and I think, like, for me personally, I usually tend to want to play N'Golo Kante when we're facing more attacking sides so that he can help break it up. And I think that we've seen that he's been doing that brilliantly. So for me, it really comes down to, like, how much of the ball you think that you're going to have against Everton, if you think you're going to control the game, or if you think that Everton are going to have more, and that you're going to need somebody like N'Golo Kante to break up the attack. And I think that Tuchel will probably, I don't think he's going to start both games, first Everton and Leeds. So I think Tuchel will probably look at which game he's more needed for, and Kovacic and Jorginho have been doing a job. I was really surprised because I didn't think that pivot worked at all, honestly, before Tuchel came in. So I was surprised, like, at how well that they've been handling it, given that they've been playing against lower block sides, and I think that's why. But yeah, it's an interesting shout. I want to keep moving along. We've already hit over an hour because I was chatting nonsense so I will try to wrap it up quickly. If, like, anybody has been watching this for over an hour, props to you. So I think, like, we can probably all agree that Mount will play above the pivot. Yes, Dan.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And then who are your front two? Because that's been another interesting position as well. Points to go.
I will go. What the teaser from earlier is, I think Tammy comes back into the side for this game.
I almost spit out my water. Sorry.
There's been this weird, is he injured? Is it a tactical thing? Do we know what's going on with him? Tammy is suited for this game in a way that Olivier Giroud is not. If you remember back to the game in December, Olivier really struggled because Everton played this low block kind of scrappy game, and the service in was just not ever going to get there, right? And he's not quick enough to break lines. I think you have to play Tammy and Timo in this game up top, and I think you have to look at getting in behind. You can catch Yerry Mina sleeping. You can occasionally catch Michael Keane out of position. I think you need someone who's going to play on the back shoulder, and you need someone who's going to be able to tap in Reece James' delightful assist from the outside. That's why I'm starting Reece James, and I think Tammy Abraham will start this game.
Interesting. Is he back? Is his ankle better? I don't even know. I thought that he was still. He is.
He put out a cheeky little Instagram post yesterday with the whatever hourglass saying loading. So my thought is probably he's fine.
Yeah. Interesting. Maybe he knows he's starting. Who knows? Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, it would be just his luck though that he puts on Instagram. He's like not even in the 11 again. Two left backs just sitting on the bench, and Emerson and Alonso, which is
I missed that. I didn't realize that there were two left backs when Tammy.
I'm coining it as managerial malpractice when you create a lineup like that, because it doesn't make any sense. Like, you shouldn't have that many defenders on there. You should bring on an additional attacking option or midfield option. So that's like one nitpicky thing. Obviously, Tuchel doesn't use his subs super early, so maybe I shouldn't be so aggrieved. But I do think Tammy makes sense. I think players who you have such a limited number of attacking players in this format that, you have 6, 7, 8 attackers, and they're all vying for essentially 3 spots, especially when you consider that Mason is a part of those attacking units, right? Because he's going to sit, I imagine he sits a little further back, and you basically almost push it like a 2 where you have Tammy and Timo playing up top and going potentially wide at times. I think you might see someone like Christian maybe get a few more minutes. He was getting an opportunity in this last game. Ziyech, I'm super concerned about and will continue being concerned until I see him string together a 60 to 70 minute performance that inspires me. But in general, I think if Tammy's available, he starts. Otherwise, it will be Giroud and Werner.
Yeah, that's interesting. Something that I kind of want to see that I don't know if we'll necessarily see against Everton, maybe we could see it against Leeds, is like a Timo and Kai Havertz, with Kai playing like kind of a false 9 and Timo is kind of like this hybrid false 9 left winger. So I think that could be interesting as well, but Havertz really hasn't been playing, so I'm not really expecting it. I really just expect any possibility of combinations at this point. Like, I'm never surprised anymore. But I think that is something that we could potentially see. So I want to ask you guys, we're all American, which is like, I think, a first on my channel, which is super cool. So how are you guys feeling about Christian Pulisic? Because for me, he's one of my favorite players, not just because he's American as well, but I fell in love with how he played and how he reminded me so much of Hazard. I just felt like he was so special and just like a game changer. And we haven't been seeing that this season. So how are you feeling about Christian Pulisic? Do you think that we can see him get back to his best this season? Nick, I'll start with you.
I think he has to be healthy. And I don't know what the answer is to that, unfortunately. I too really love watching him play. I've said this multiple times. I saw his first international goal in Kansas City, where I live, when he first joined for the U.S. And you could tell at 17 how special he was going to be. I am worried about the injuries, though. I really am. I am concerned that he doesn't look like he's trusting his body out there right now. Like, if you compare film of where he was against Liverpool in our last match, or any of the other kind of cameos that he's made, and then you compare that to the Project Restart form of the summer, he looked free and clear this summer. He looked like he was 115% out there, just taking risks and having a lot of them pay off. I mean, he was in unbelievable form this summer. Yeah, it was great. So I am really worried about the injuries, and I don't think we're going to see him at his best until he figures out how to kind of cope with that. And I hope it isn't a long-term thing is my quote.
Yeah, I think something that I've been thinking about as well, I think some article maybe has put this out at some point that was saying like perhaps Christian is even getting different instructions to try to learn how to play without being as explosive, or just for the short term so that he doesn't get injured. And I think in the back of his mind, he's probably thinking, like you said, I don't want to get injured again. I'd rather be playing even not at like the scintillating form than get another injury and be out for months. But I think that's something that he's probably struggling with, and we can see it on the pitch. Perhaps it's the instructions that he's been giving as well. And also, I don't know about you guys, but I don't love him playing on the right, and I feel like that's where he's been playing recently, and I just don't think that he's effective there like at all. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, it's been tough to use another quote or an analogy. Like, you can't make the club in the tub, and that has been Christian Pulisic's. It's been his story this season, and I think we have to look back maybe now on his post-project restart form as more of what the high ceiling is for what he is capable of, and maybe even like a statistical abnormality, because he had never gotten 10 goals in a season before, right? And he was playing significant minutes at Dortmund beforehand, and was getting 5 goals, 6 goals, 7 goals. So like this was an evolution of his game, and I think so we're seeing you would expect to see some regression in any capacity in that regard. This is a whole different level of regression, because it also, I think, has a lack of confidence, to what Nick kind of called out with just the body language, the hesitancy, what we saw essentially with Callum, right? When Callum injured his Achilles, how long did it take him to get back? How long has it taken Ruben Loftus-Cheek to get back to playing like the footballer that we remember seeing him against under Sarri? He's just starting to, even scratch at that now under Fulham. And so ultimately, like, you want Christian to do well. He's not maybe kind of at where he needs to be. He's going to need minutes and opportunity to get there. I just think it's also at the wrong time of the season to be knocking on the door for minutes when every game is a must win. And like, that's going to be the other challenge too, I think, Nick, is that like there's not enough minutes left in the season to maybe gamble as much. I mean, Tuchel is definitely more of a pragmatist.
I would say this. I think what we learned about the beginning of this season, stemming off of only like a 28-day turnaround between seasons last year, from where we finished the Champions League on August 2nd until we started the league season in September. Pulisic's injury, his hamstring injury, was really, really bad from the FA Cup final. You could tell it was bad. I mean, every commentator who looked at that was like, "Yep, been there. That's going to be a while." And he rushed back because I think he was desperate to play. You can't really do that, though. I mean, like, you need your hamstring to run. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, like, it's a hard thing to do, and I think I love his passion. I love his energy. I know he's desperate to get out there, and I know in the pregame warmup when he injured his calf again or his adductor, whatever it was, like, he was furious, and you saw him rip off his training bib, and he was done. But like, you really have to give that a minute, to heal. And I'm hopeful that he's able to do that and still stay mentally in the game, because that's the key. Part of what Dan was saying about Cal is it was so hard for a young player in Cal to stay mentally in the team, right? And only now that he's been given kind of a run of games and is gaining confidence do you see him on the bench, when they pan over, when he's not playing in the game still. Like, that's really crucial. And I hope that Christian's doing that.
Yeah. So much to unpack. Honestly, I could talk about Christian Pulisic for an entire episode, honestly. But I think you guys are absolutely spot on with what you've been saying. And I think I think Alex Goldberg put out a podcast as well with like sports therapy, and he said if you don't have a proper preseason, you're spending the entire rest of the season trying to catch up from that injury because you're trying to get back to that fitness level as well. And we know that, I think that's why we're seeing so many injuries in the league in general, is because nobody's really had a proper preseason either. But especially for Pulisic, I think that he's just been trying so hard to try to get back into the team, and he's just behind everybody a little bit. He's always a little bit of a step behind. And I think that this summer could do like really like wonders for him. He's not going to be in the Euros, obviously.
Well, he has World Cup qualifying coming up though too. You have to think about that. Like World Cup 2022 is basically a year away now.
I know, it's nuts.
so the calendar does not let up. I mean, the problem with all of this, the last year and a half, I mean, we're coming up on a year that COVID's really been a part of our lives, is that everything got condensed, everything got squished. We should have had Euros last summer. This should have been a relatively free summer. And then next fall, winter, reminder, the World Cup's in the winter of 2022.
Right, yeah.
Is going to make it even weirder, right? So there's going to be, it's basically an accordion now of fixtures. And good luck to the medical staff. It's going to be really hard to manage all that.
But are they still having Premier League fixtures during the World Cup?
There's a block of time.
Yeah,
so the season prolongs into the later end of the season. But it's going to be bizarre. It's
so weird.
There's so many criticisms of the World Cup in Qatar that we could get into as a whole separate stream.
We'll do a whole another stream on that. It's awful. It is hard though, right? Because think of a normal World Cup. A normal World Cup will happen basically like mid-June to mid-July, right? That'll be like the final. Then a lot of those players will then get a month or a month and a half off before they start. So a lot of those players from a World Cup year will start their season not in August when the Premier League season starts, but like mid-September, right? When they're kind of getting back. Think about that for the World Cup in 2022 or even the Euros this summer. You're going to have to make weird adjustments. You're going to see a lot of youth players coming back in, whenever January when they start league play again, because those players have just played a tournament where they gave 190% of their effort to try and win the World Cup because it only happens every 4 years. You're never going to get a healthy team after that point. It just will not happen.
It makes no sense to have it during the winter. I'm sorry. You should just pick any other place where you can host during the summer, and that's it. But like you said, we would get
the other challenge for Chelsea is going to be is as we start to acquire players who are internationals and actually internationals who play for their teams, right? Because we have people like Alonso, who technically is a Spanish international, but they really don't call him up. So, but you're looking at players like Kai, like Timo, Rudiger, all of them play for Germany.
Mason Mount
for England. So like we are going to be even more strapped this World Cup than we were the last time the World Cup happened in terms of integrating players back into the squad. And so, it'll be even more challenges for Tuchel in the next season.
That's absolutely nuts as well, because the fixtures this season have just been absolutely nonstop because of COVID, and it's just been so condensed, especially because you have that hard deadline because of the Euros as well. So I feel bad for these players. I really do. Like, there's no break. Their bodies must be absolutely destroyed, honestly.
This 2.5 years of football, you take from last spring all the way through the World Cup of 2022 and that season, is going like there will never have been a time where more football has been played in a condensed amount of time like it's going to be. And it's going to be imperative. If you look at squad building, if you look at bringing youth through and all these things that, I think we consistently talk about because it's interesting, it's going to be so crucial to have someone like Billy Gilmore on your team to play midfield, because at times he may be your best option and only option due to injuries or whatever, right? Same with a lot of our youth players, which is why this makes our connection to Cobham so important when you think about just spelling players. Ben Chilwell can't go on a 20-game run of matches played in 20 days. Like it doesn't work. And I'm being, obviously I'm exaggerating quite a bit here, but like you get what I'm saying. Like it's bananas, especially if he's coming back from a World Cup. Like, no.
It's nuts. No. It's nuts. Absolutely nuts. So that's I hadn't even thought about that because I knew that the World Cup was in the winter and not in the summer, but time just feels really weird right now. And
yep.
Don't even, it's been like a weird year, and that's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. But guys, I guess, we've been chatting for quite a while. I can honestly go on forever, but I don't want to eat out too much of your morning. So before I let you go, I just want to get a score prediction for Everton tomorrow.
Oh boy. We've done a lot of these this year, Dan. Probably 20 of these score predictions. I've had one.
Probably have both gotten one or two right.
Well, I've had one right.
Season.
I celebrated like Ronaldo. It was great. So 1 out of 20 ain't bad. I'm going with a 1-0 Chelsea win.
Dan?
That is the safest bet to make because we are just over one goal in most of our games in terms of expected, and we were 1-0 feels right and feels statistically like the most likely goal outcome. But I would say if people are turning off the stream, the Chelsea women's game is going on still right now, and they are winning 2-0 in a derby versus West Ham, and that would be a great use of the rest of their time after finishing the stream with us.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Yeah, they had a really great win in the Champions League as well. Just very cool. I definitely need to start watching more. And yeah, I'm going for 1-0 as well. I said it earlier in the stream that I was between like 2-1 and 1-0. And yeah, I don't know. I think that we're going to win, but it's definitely not going to be an easy match. Hopefully we win by more than 1 goal so I don't have a heart attack in the last 10 minutes of the
Where's
game.
that second goal coming from, though? That's my question.
Yeah. Mason Mount hat trick.
There it is.
Done.
I'm in.
But guys, thank you so much for joining. Guys, if you like this video, please drop it a like. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to listen to their podcast, London is Blue. It's absolutely awesome. But guys, I also want to give you the opportunity to just say where everybody can find you as well.
Dan?
This is Nick's job. I know. I let Nick do this. Nick is always you're the king of brag. It is all that you do.
Yeah, look, that's who I am as a person. At London Blue Pod, Twitter and Instagram. You can find us there. We take fan submissions for every show. So tweet at us, send us a DM, send us an email, contact at londonisbluepodcast.com. Dan has his patented 3-word match review at the beginning of every show. And those have become incredibly fun to do. You guys are far more creative than we are now. We get blown out of the water every week. So really excited about that. And yeah, it's been a fun year to do Chelsea podcasts. So congrats on all your success, by the way. Like
absolutely
massive growth in a very short amount of time. So I think you should be credited. And I love how positive you are in a sea of absolute nonsense.
more of what is needed, which is is positive and thoughtful commentary that is not reactionary or incendiary. So we appreciate you being a part of the Chelsea content community, get to be considered a part of that as well. And we're looking forward to hopefully coming back on again and making sure that we get our times right.
Guys, you're gonna make me cry. That's so nice, honestly. I really appreciate it, especially because I've been listening to you guys forever. So it's super crazy for me to be able to chat with you and have you on my channel. Honestly, really means a lot. So guys, thank you so much for joining. I'll be sure to add their links to the description so that you can find them, but I'm sure you already know where to get them. But guys, thank you so much for joining, and until next time, I'm out.